The sun had just begun its descent behind the mountains, casting a warm, golden light over the monastery courtyard. The air was thick with the scent of incense, and the gentle rustling of leaves in the evening breeze created a serene backdrop to the quiet bustle of the disciples gathering around their master. Seated under the ancient Bodhi tree, the master, a figure of calm and wisdom, waited as his disciples settled around him. The young monks, some of whom had traveled great distances to study under this revered teacher, were eager to absorb the teachings of the day. They knew that this evening's lesson would be particularly special, for the master had hinted at discussing the sacred mantras, a topic that many had yearned to understand more deeply. The master, with his kind eyes and gentle smile, looked over his disciples, noticing their anticipation. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the knowledge he was about to share. His voice, when he finally spoke, was soft yet resonant, carrying the authority of years of practice and deep understanding. "My dear disciples," he began, his voice cutting through the quiet like a bell, "today, I want to take you on a journey. A journey not of the body, but of the mind and spirit. As you know, we gather here every day to deepen our understanding of the Dharma, to cultivate our minds, and to purify our hearts. But today, I wish to guide you deeper into one of the most profound practices in our tradition, the recitation of mantras." He paused, letting his words sink in. The disciples, their eyes fixed on their master, leaned in closer, their minds already beginning to focus. "Mantras," he continued, "are not just sounds or words. They are the keys to unlocking the mysteries of the universe, the tools we use to shape our minds, to protect our spirits, and to connect with the divine energies of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. But tell me, my dear ones, have you ever truly felt the power of these sacred utterances? Have you allowed them to transform you, to guide you towards the path of enlightenment?" The disciples exchanged glances, their curiosity piqued. Some had chanted mantras for years, yet the way the master spoke of them made it seem as if they had only scratched the surface of their true power. Sensing their unspoken questions, the master smiled and gestured for them to come closer. "Before we begin, let me share with you a story of a young monk, not unlike yourselves, who discovered the true essence of mantra practice. It is a story that may resonate with you, for it is a journey that each of you will embark upon as you delve deeper into the Dharma." The disciples leaned in, eager to hear the story that would set the stage for the teachings to come. The master's voice took on a reflective tone as he began to weave the tale. Many years ago, in a distant monastery, there was a young monk named Ananda. He was diligent in his studies, disciplined in his practice. Yet he often felt that something was missing. Despite his dedication, he struggled to find the peace and clarity that others seemed to possess. He would sit in meditation, his mind wandering, distracted by thoughts of the past and worries about the future. One day, while Ananda was sitting by the river, his master approached him. Noticing the troubled look on the young monk's face, the master sat beside him and asked, "Ananda, why do you look so restless?" Ananda, hesitant at first, finally confessed, "Master, I have been practicing as you have taught, yet I still feel as if I am not progressing. My mind is often clouded, and I cannot find the peace I seek." The master nodded, understanding the young monk's struggle. "Ananda," he said gently, "you have learned much, but there is one practice you have yet to truly embrace, the practice of mantra recitation." "Mantras?" Ananda replied, puzzled. "I have chanted them many times, but I do not see how they can help me overcome these distractions." The master smiled knowingly. "Ah, but chanting and understanding are two different things. You see, mantras are not just words to be repeated, they are sacred sounds that carry the very essence of the Dharma. When you recite a mantra with full awareness and intention, it becomes a tool for transformation, a bridge between your mind and the infinite wisdom of the Buddhas." Curious and eager to learn, Ananda asked, "But how can I unlock this power, Master? How can I make these mantras truly work for me?" The master placed a hand on Ananda's shoulder, his eyes full of compassion. "The key, Ananda, is in your heart. When you chant a mantra, do so with the deepest sincerity. Focus not on the sound alone, but on the meaning, the intention behind it. Let your mind be still, let your heart be open, and the mantra will guide you to the peace you seek." With these words, the master began to teach Ananda the sacred mantras, one by one, explaining their meanings and the intentions with which they should be recited. As Ananda practiced, he felt a shift within himself. The distractions that once plagued his mind began to fade, replaced by a deep sense of calm and clarity. The mantras, once mere sounds to him, now resonated within his very soul, guiding him towards the enlightenment he had sought for so long. As the master finished the story, he looked at his disciples, who were now fully captivated, their minds open and ready to receive the teachings. "And so, my dear ones," the master said, bringing them back to the present, "today, I will share with you the sacred mantras, just as I shared them with Ananda. But remember, these are not just words. Approach them with the same sincerity, the same openness of heart, and you too will experience their transformative power. Are you ready to embark on this journey with me?" The disciples nodded eagerly, their hearts filled with anticipation. The master smiled, knowing that they were about to take their first steps into a deeper, more profound understanding of the Dharma. "My dear disciples, come closer and listen with your hearts as well as your minds. In these tumultuous times, where the world often feels overwhelming and full of suffering, you may find yourselves asking, how can we, as practitioners of the Dharma, find a refuge amidst the chaos? How can we tread the path that leads to the cessation of all suffering? The teachings of the Buddha have illuminated this path for over 2,500 years, and today, we are blessed to walk it together. But tell me, have you truly embraced these teachings in your daily lives? Have you felt their transformative power within your very being?" Mantras, the sacred utterances of transformation, the sacred mantras. How often we chant them, but how deeply do we understand their significance? These are not just ancient words handed down through time, they are living, breathing entities, each with the power to transform our consciousness and connect us with the divine. When you chant a mantra, do you feel the vibrations in your heart, resonating with the energy of the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas? Can you sense the shift within you, as the mantra guides your mind away from distractions and towards a state of deep, serene focus? Consider this. In moments of stress, when the mind is troubled, do you turn to these mantras as a source of comfort? The power of these sacred sounds is immense. They can calm the stormiest of minds, bringing about a profound sense of peace and balance. But remember, my dear ones, the power of a mantra is not merely in its sound but in the intention behind it. As you chant, let your mind be filled with compassion, your heart with sincerity. Let your intention be clear, to dedicate the merit of your practice to the enlightenment of all beings. Yes, even those beings you may never meet, those suffering in realms far beyond our comprehension. Your practice can touch them. Bring them peace. Isn't that a beautiful, humbling thought? The historical roots and linguistic power of mantras. Now, let us travel back through the corridors of time, over 2,500 years, to the days of Shakyamuni Buddha. Picture the ancient land of India, where Sanskrit, a language revered for its spiritual precision, was spoken. Imagine the Buddha himself, uttering these sacred sounds, imbuing them with his boundless wisdom and compassion. It is through this lineage that these mantras have reached us, unchanged in their form and power. When you recite them, you are not just speaking ancient words, you are connecting with a lineage that stretches back to the very source of the Dharma. Do you feel the weight and the honor of this connection? And yet, Sanskrit is not the only vessel of these sacred sounds. Within the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, mantras are also recited in the Tibetan language, especially within the Vajrayana school. This tradition, rich in its use of mantras, mudras, and mandalas, holds within it mantras so powerful, so secretive, that even saints cannot fully comprehend their depth. The Shurangama Sutra, a cornerstone of Buddhist literature, speaks of these Vajrayana mantras as techniques known only to the Buddhas themselves. Imagine the power held within these words, power enough to purify lifetimes of negative karma, to guide one swiftly on the path to Buddhahood. It is said that merely reciting these mantras can bring about profound spiritual transformation. Can you feel the responsibility, the sacred duty, that comes with chanting such powerful words? The supreme mantras, tools for spiritual transformation. Now, my dear disciples, let us explore these supreme mantras together. Each one is a gem, a tool for transformation that can guide us closer to enlightenment. As I speak of these mantras, I want you to reflect deeply on how they can transform your life, how they can be used not just for personal gain, but for the benefit of all sentient beings. 1. The Medicine Buddha Mantra, Tadayatha Om because Mahabhakes. Let us begin with the Medicine Buddha, by Sajayaguru. Picture him in your mind, holding a bowl of medicinal nectar, his face serene and compassionate. This mantra, my dear ones, is a source of immense healing. It is not just a mantra for the sick, but for all of us, as we are all afflicted by the sufferings of samsara. When you chant this mantra, imagine the healing light of the Medicine Buddha flowing through you, purifying not only your body but your mind. Do you feel the release, the lightness, as your karma begins to cleanse? And remember, this healing is not just for you. As you recite this mantra, extend its healing power to others, to those who are ill, to those who are suffering in ways you cannot see. Can you imagine the joy of bringing such relief to another being? 2. The mantra of Kitagarbha Bodhisattva, Om Hahavira. Kitagarbha, the earth treasury Bodhisattva, who vowed not to attain Buddhahood until all beings in hell are liberated. What a vow! What a commitment to compassion! As you chant his mantra, reflect on the immense compassion it represents. Imagine yourself standing at the gates of hell, offering your hand to those who suffer, guiding them towards the light. This mantra has the power to dissolve the karmic obstacles that bind us, not just in this life, but across countless lifetimes. Do you see how powerful your practice can be? And it's not just for the living, this mantra can guide the spirits of the dead, offering them peace and the possibility of a better rebirth. Isn't that a noble, selfless act? 3. The Shurangama Mantra, this is a mantra of protection, my dear disciples, a shield against the forces of negativity and evil. In the Shurangama Sutra, the Buddha himself speaks of the power of this mantra to protect the Dharma and those who practice it. Imagine reciting it with such purity of mind that it creates an impenetrable barrier around you, safeguarding you from spiritual harm. Picture the negative forces being repelled, the demons fleeing in fear. Can you sense the strength that comes from this practice? It is a strength born not of fear, but of deep, unshakable faith in the Buddha's teachings. Are you ready to commit to this level of protection, not just for yourself, but for all who follow the path of the Dharma? 4. The mantra of Kundi Bodhisattva, Om Kale Kul Kun Svaha, Kundi, the mother of 7 million Buddhas, is a beacon of hope and transformation. Her mantra is especially powerful for those facing significant challenges, whether they be physical, financial, or emotional. Think of the obstacles in your life, the difficulties that weigh heavily on your heart. As you chant this mantra, visualize those obstacles dissolving, melting away like mist in the morning sun. Can you feel the relief, the lightness, as Kundi's compassionate energy surrounds you? This mantra is not just for overcoming challenges, it also brings wisdom and spiritual protection. How might your life change, how might your spiritual journey deepen, with Kundi's guidance? 5. The Great Compassion Mantra of Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva, this mantra, my dear disciples, is the very essence of compassion. Avalokiteshvara, or Kuan Yin, has vowed to hear the cries of the world and to relieve all beings from their suffering. When you recite this mantra, do so with a heart full of love, full of the desire to alleviate the suffering of others. Imagine the power of your compassion extending outward, touching the lives of beings you cannot see, bringing them comfort and peace. Can you see how this practice connects you to the vast web of life? How it allows you to participate in the Buddha's great work of liberation? 6. The mantra of Dzambala, the Buddhist god of wealth, Om Dzambala Jalandreya Svaha. Now, you may wonder, why does Buddhism have a mantra for wealth? But understand this. My dear ones, wealth is not just material. True wealth includes spiritual richness, the abundance of merit, and the resources we need to support our practice and help others. When you chant Zambala's mantra, do so with the intention to cultivate both material and spiritual prosperity. Imagine using this wealth to benefit others, to create conditions where the Dharma can flourish. Do you see the responsibility that comes with this mantra? The more you receive, the more you are called to give. Are you ready for such a commitment? 7. The Om Mani Padme Hum mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, the jewel in the lotus. This mantra is perhaps the most beloved in all of Buddhism, associated with Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion. As you chant these 6 syllables, let them purify your heart, cleanse your mind of defilements, and fill you with boundless compassion. Can you feel the transformation happening within you, as the layers of ignorance and negativity are peeled away? Picture the 6 realms of existence, the gods, demigods, humans, animals, hungry ghosts, and hell beings, each one purified by your recitation. Isn't it incredible to think that your practice can bring about such profound change, not just in your life, but in the entire cosmos? 8. The Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra mantra, Gate Gate Paragate Parasamgate Bodhisvaha, wisdom, my dear disciples, is the key to liberation. The Heart Sutra teaches us the profound truth of emptiness, the realization that all phenomena are devoid of inherent existence. When you recite this mantra, you are invoking the very essence of wisdom, the wisdom that leads to enlightenment. Can you feel it? The cutting away of delusion, the clarity that comes from seeing things as they truly are? This is no ordinary wisdom, it is the wisdom of the Buddhas, the wisdom that sees through the illusions of the world. Are you prepared to embrace this truth, to let it transform your understanding of reality? 9. The Pure Land Rebirth Mantra, Namo Amitabha Buddha. The Pure Land, presided over by Amitabha Buddha, is a realm of unparalleled peace and beauty. A place where beings can practice the Dharma without hindrance. As you chant this mantra, imagine yourself in this pure land, surrounded by the light of Amitabha's infinite compassion. Can you see it? The serene landscape, the golden light, the sounds of the Dharma filling the air. This mantra is a lifeline, especially for those at the end of life. Recite it with faith and devotion, and you can ensure a peaceful transition to this pure land, not just for yourself, but for those who have passed on. What greater gift could you offer to those who have left this world? 10. The mantra of Manjusri Bodhisattva, Omara Pa Ca Na Dai, wisdom sharp as a sword, cutting through ignorance and delusion. This is the gift of Manjusri Bodhisattva. As you chant his mantra, feel your mind becoming clear, your understanding deepening. This is not just intellectual knowledge, it is the wisdom that comes from direct experience of the Dharma. Are you a student, a seeker of truth? This mantra is your guide, helping you to see clearly, to think deeply, and to express the profound truths of the Dharma. Imagine your mind as a bright, clear mirror, reflecting the true nature of all things. Can you feel the power of this wisdom within you? Conclusion. Your path to enlightenment, my dear disciples, the path of the Dharma is vast, and the journey to enlightenment is long. But do not be discouraged, for you are not alone. With these mantras, you have powerful tools to aid you on your journey. Each mantra is a gateway, a means to cultivate compassion, wisdom, and spiritual strength. But remember, it is not enough to simply recite the words. You must do so with intention, with sincerity, and with a deep commitment to the liberation of all beings. As you walk this path, ask yourself, how can I use these mantras to benefit not just myself, but all sentient beings? How can I, in my practice, contribute to the peace and happiness of others? This is the heart of the Bodhisattva path, the path of selfless service and boundless compassion. Each mantra you chant, each intention you set, sends ripples through the universe, touching lives in ways you may never see. But trust that your practice matters, that it makes a difference. Imagine the world as a vast ocean, with each of us as a single drop. The mantras are the currents, guiding us towards the shore of enlightenment. Can you see it? The end of suffering, the realization of ultimate truth? It is within reach, but we must walk this path with courage, with faith, and with an unwavering dedication to the Dharma. Are you ready, my dear ones? Are you ready to take up this sacred practice, to commit yourself fully to the path of the Buddha? Together, we will journey towards the light, guided by the wisdom of the Dharma and the power of these sacred mantras. Let us walk this path with open hearts and minds, knowing that each step we take brings us closer to the ultimate goal of enlightenment. Let us begin now, with hearts full of faith and minds sharp with wisdom. The teachings of the Buddha are our guide, and the mantras are our lifeline. Together, we will create a world of peace, harmony, and enlightenment. Are you with me, my dear disciples? Let us go forth and practice with all our hearts. As the Master finished guiding his disciples through the sacred mantras, the sun had dipped below the horizon, casting the courtyard in a soft, dusky light. The air was still, and a profound silence filled the space, broken only by the occasional rustle of leaves or the distant call of a night bird. The disciples sat in quiet reflection, their minds absorbing the teachings, their hearts touched by the depth of the wisdom they had received. Sensing that his disciples were deep in thought, the Master allowed the silence to linger, letting the teaching settle like gentle rain on fertile soil. Finally, he spoke, his voice soft yet filled with the warmth of a guiding light. My dear ones, you have now been introduced to the sacred mantras that have been passed down through countless generations. Each of these mantras is a key, a tool for unlocking the infinite potential within you. But remember, he paused, his eyes sweeping over the faces of his students, the true power of these mantras lies not just in their recitation, but in your intention, your sincerity, and your understanding. He saw a few of the younger disciples nodding, their eyes bright with newfound insight. Yet, the Master knew that true understanding would come only with time and practice. Let me share with you what happened to young Ananda after he began to practice the mantras with the sincerity and focus I had taught him. The Master continued, bringing the earlier story to its conclusion. Ananda, having taken the Master's words to heart, dedicated himself to the practice of mantra recitation. Every morning before dawn, he would sit by the river, the same place where he had first confessed his struggles to his Master, and he would chant the mantras with deep concentration and pure intention. At first, the changes were subtle. His mind, once easily distracted, began to settle more quickly into meditation. The worries that had previously clouded his thoughts started to fade, replaced by a growing sense of inner peace. With each recitation, Ananda felt a deeper connection to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. As if their wisdom and compassion were flowing into him through the sacred sounds. One day, as he sat chanting by the river, Ananda felt something shift within him, a profound sense of clarity and insight. It was as if the veil of illusion had been lifted, and for the first time, he saw the world as it truly was, interconnected, impermanent, and filled with both suffering and potential for liberation. This realization brought tears to his eyes, not of sorrow, but of deep, abiding joy. When he returned to the monastery, his fellow monks noticed a change in him. Ananda, who had once been troubled and restless, now radiated a calm confidence, a quiet strength that inspired those around him. His practice had not only transformed his own life but had also begun to influence the entire community. As others were drawn to his newfound serenity and wisdom, the Master, observing this transformation, called Ananda to his side one evening. Ananda, he said, his voice filled with pride and affection, you have walked the path with sincerity and dedication. The mantras have become more than just words to you, they have become a living practice, a source of strength and guidance. Continue on this path, and you will find that the mantras will lead you to the ultimate truth, to enlightenment. Ananda bowed deeply, his heart full of gratitude. He knew that his journey was far from over. But he also knew that he was no longer walking it alone. The mantras, and the wisdom they carried, would be his companions on the path to liberation. As the Master finished the story, he looked at his disciples, who were now sitting in silent reverence, deeply moved by Ananda's journey. They understood that the story was not just about Ananda, but about each of them. The path to enlightenment was open to all who approached it with sincerity, dedication.